An ordinary man forced to become an extraordinary hero. Here's your look at the new Diamond Select. This is the Rocketeer Collector's action figure with accessories. The discovery of a top-secret jetpack hurls test pilot Cliff Secord into a daring adventure of mystery, suspense, and intrigue. Cliff encounters an assortment of ruthless villains led by a Hollywood screen star who's a secret spy. With the help of his actress girlfriend, the young pilot battles enormous odds to defeat his foes, who are anxious to use the device in an evil plan to rule the world. The very first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the Rocketeer stands. Should you be in the market to pick this one up for yourself, you should be able to find the Rocketeer at comic book stores, which likely aren't open right now due to the social distancing of things going on right now in the world. But you can most definitely source this guy out online and have him delivered right to your door, probably a safer bet. According to the tape measure, a dramatic pause if you will, the figure stands 6.6 inches in height. And that in centimeters works out to be 16.8 centimeters tall. Let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the Rocketeer. The first one we'll have a look at, and I'm so glad to see that Diamond Select would include this, is the Jetpack blueprints. You can see taken from Hughes Aircraft Company written down below, and even also includes the date of March 14th, 1938. It is done on cardboard. I guess that's what to be expected when it comes to a blueprint after all. I suppose you could mount this behind, like that, just like that, maybe, behind the Rocketeer if you wanted to. I like the fact that they do include something like this. I mean, I would love to kind of even get this on a larger scale, something to be framed and put on my wall. Just between you and me, don't tell anybody. Rocketeer is one of my favorite movies. Shh. Don't say anything. Don't say anything to anybody. So I really like the fact that they would include that. We have a lot of the accessories sort of focused more so on him in his Rocketeer outfit, which I guess in some sense he's wearing obviously right now, his aviator jacket and pants, but of course with his helmet. So let's discuss some of the things that come included with the figure without his helmet. Say, for example, if you want to display him just with the unhelmeted Cliff portrait played by Billy Campbell in the film. Again, I love the Rocketeer, one of my all-time favorite films. Now, I don't know specifically if this Rocketeer is more so for the movie representation of the character or pulled simply from the comics. On a likeness level to actor Billy Campbell, it's okay. I mean, it's not likely going to be the way I'm displaying the figure. I like in some sense that he does have a nice little smile on his face. He does have some nice coloring also to him as well. But he does feel a little on the animated side when we look at the details done to his face. Again, do I see Cliff? I do see some elements of Cliff. But overall, it kind of feels more like a cartoon version of the Rocketeer, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all. If anything more so, I'd be gravitating quite easily to the idea of displaying him with the helmet. The helmet is also done in a way that the way it's attached on the underside via a ball joint socket, you can also most definitely just display the Rocketeer helmet in Cliff's hands. Just kind of display it like this. Again, just a nice way to showcase the options of having both heads displayed with the figure without having to have a second socket on his shoulder. That would look very awkward, wouldn't it? He does have in this look a couple of different ways that you can display the figure. We can go ahead and take the front of the aviator jacket off, and he does have the folded back flap that just snaps back into place. Let me just show you what I'm doing here. There's two squared rectangular pegs. We're going to fit those back into the sockets, designed and fit for that shape. And you can have the folded back flap. Again, it's basically just the exact same thing, just cornered, peeled away. There you go, like a banana peel. Display him like that if you so wish. He does also have human hands, or let me just rephrase that, ungloved hands, because obviously he's going to be wearing, he has human hands after all, he's just wearing gloves over top of them, so if you want to take those off, to kind of get that full effect going on. Just wiggle this off, wiggle, 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 there we go, pop that off the socket, and pop that back into place. And like I said, he does have, you know, he just has some human hands. They're just flat, kind of karate chopping hands. He doesn't have closed fists or anything like that. I guess if you wanted to, you could have him saluting, if you wish. with this look. The thing about it, though, is the figure doesn't seem to have the removable means to take the jetpack off. I guess in some ways I would have liked if the jetpack was removable as well. Pegs sort of in the same way that the front flap could be removable. And though try my luck as it is, it doesn't seem like it is actually removable. And I feel like if I am to pull it off, I'm most definitely to cause damage to it. It seems like it's really intended to be there. One little small touch I like is the fact that they did add the little bit of chewing gum on the back there to, of course, cover over that hole. Of course, plays heavily into the end of the film. I like the fact that they did also include that. So this is his look, desired look, if you wanted to have him displayed. The unhelmeted version displaying the cliff portrait. We'll go ahead now and take the hands off. We'll probably leave them off the sockets for the time being. And we'll go ahead and take the head off as well. Just wiggle that off the ball joint like that. I was surprised actually that the ball joint sat as high as it did. The neck also does seem very high too, but then when you consider how far in it actually has to go down, plug that back into place. I know I teased you by putting on the helmet. But if you put it down far enough, the neck doesn't look as long as it may seem as when you take the head actually off, because the neck does seem very long, doesn't it? Keeping it also in mind, too, that when you are putting the helmet on, my preferred look of the figure, you're also going to be having it sit a little bit further down. This one does involve a little bit more extra pressure. Like I said, though, you don't see as much that neck. They probably had to allot for the fact, giving a little extra clearance and leeway for the neck to make it still look like it sits underneath, so you can see it visibly underneath the helmet. And this is, of course, the Rocketeer with his helmet on. Obviously, it makes no sense just to display him without hands. How is he going to propel himself through the skies? So he does have some hands we can also discuss as well. We'll put the figure down here for a second. We had already looked at, briefly, yes, but we did look at a pair of relaxed hands. They are more flat hands than anything else. And the trigger button has been sculpted on all of the hands. You can see it right there. See, right there, and see right there. If you want the more triggered, not literally, I suppose, but if you want to have it displayed with the hand over, like he's pressing the button down, and to actually propel himself through the sky, he does have this look, which I feel is probably going to be the desired look for me, displaying him with the button pushed down. He does also have a couple of relaxed hands. This one, these two right here, just kind of a pair, like I said, of relaxed hands. One thing that kind of makes me curious is this hand right here. He doesn't come with any other accessories other than the ones that we are going to be discussing here. A part of me thinks that he was intended initially to have a pistol come included with him, which would make sense. He does use a pistol, obviously, in the film. But this one does give you the indication, based on the sculpting of the hand, that he was supposed to come included with one, and yet ultimately he did not. Maybe down the road we may get ourselves a Disney Store exclusive, or initial plans perhaps would have been to include a pistol, and then they just had to unfortunately not use it. Maybe they couldn't display it, they couldn't sell it with it. I'm not really sure the reasonings for it. So let's go ahead and attach what I feel is the best hand, obviously for the Rocketeer, is the little button pressing hand. There we go, the glove. And let's go ahead and maybe we'll use, I don't know, we'll go with the, what do you guys think? Let's go with this hand. Just the fanned out fingered hand. There we go, right there. And again, that's the way you can display, that's the way at least I'm going to display the figure. A couple of other ways as well. Obviously, we'll take this back off if you wanted to. You could keep that on if you want. I kind of like the more completely flat across front section of his aviator jacket. And we'll just pop that back into place. Sometimes it does feel like it sits a little on the loose side, but it does stay securely in place. And then we can go ahead and look at the propulsion for the back of the figure. Now, obviously, we've already had a look at the thrusters, the jetpack located on the back. He has a couple of extra thruster pieces, obviously. If he's going to be firing himself through the sky, something's going to have to propel him up there. And he, like I said, he does have a couple of flame attachments that you can attach. What's this? This in the back? Yeah, I know. You were looking at that back and you caught your attention. By the way, these are translucent plastic. I haven't forgotten about, of course, that. These are translucent plastic, so I like the gradient effect of going from yellow all the way to more darker red. It's interesting, on this side is more the yellowish kind of orange. On this side, it's closer to being more red. Go ahead and unplug these. Now, these are attached by pegs. The next thing we are going to be looking at appears to be attached by magnets. If you look at them, basically what you're getting for this figure, I'm just going to lay the figure down here for a second, is a propulsion base. Basically smoke, and the fire, of course, that's going to be emanating from the bottom thrusters of the jetpack. It's a nice look for the figure. It would have also been neat if they had curved it slightly, so when you did put it on display, if you didn't want your Rocketeer looking like he's flying straight up, if they had slightly curved the stand, kind of like this, you could have actually had it displayed where it looks like the Rocketeer is flying towards you. Now granted, yes, this could be something that could also be pulled off by simply just making use of these thrusters, the ones that we had already looked at, and just taking yourself like a little cradle supporting stand, and you could display the Rocketeer in flight pose that way, if you wanted to. I want to show you how it attaches in place though. If you look at the two, it doesn't quite line the thrusters up. I felt like I had to pry these slightly away from one another to fit them both in the sockets. You'll just, if you get the figure for yourself, which I would recommend that you do, just again, pry this apart slightly to fit them in both the holes of the thrusters. If not, one will fit and the other one will just slightly miss it, or just slightly, obviously not fit inside of it. And again, it's a nice look to display the figure. The propulsion underneath, the smoke, and of course all this underneath sculpting, does prevent the figure from really getting a flat, straight leg stance. You can also flip the figure around and display it this way as well. Whatever look that you want to decide to go with. Going this route, however, does give you a little bit more flatter clearance. So you might get the legs a little straighter in the process. Again, I like this look because for display purpose, obviously it's not the most exciting of poses, I understand that. But certainly from a display standpoint, putting him with this really does look nice. What you could also do too, and I've almost even considered the idea, if you get yourself a small LED light, feed that right with Jack. Can I call you Jack? Okay, good. If you just put an LED light underneath that, this is translucent plastic that simply has been brushed over top to give you the smoke, just with a little bit of white paint. Same effect also has been added here with the orange and yellow. So there's nothing to say, just run a light source in there and you could project and run the light all the way up. As you can see, it doesn't go all the way, it stops right here, but it would be enough to illuminate at least the bottom section. I might even consider doing that. So those are the accessories that come included with the figure. Let's have a look at the Rocketeer himself. As I've said already, probably at nausea, I'm certain of it, one of my all-time favorite movies, Rocketeer, probably top 10. I know in the last couple of videos, I seem to throw out top 10, top 5, top 3 favorite films. Rocketeer definitely would be of that top. It's something really magical about the 90s, specifically around that time frame. There was a lot of good, real good classic films coming out. Rocketeer is one of my all-time favorites. Having a look at the head sculpt on the Rocketeer again, this was the head sculpt of the two. Personally speaking, I kind of like the helmeted version because it more screams Rocketeer than the regular Cliff portrait here on the left. I like that they brushed away a little bit of additional black on there, so it does look like the helmet is slightly a little tarnished. It doesn't look clean and pristine. It looks like something that they would have forged in their shop, and it really is a neat looking helmet. I'd love to get a 1-to-1 scale of the Rocketeer helmet. By far one of my favorite, I think, memorabilia pieces from films would be the Rocketeer helmet. The jetpack isn't removable, we've already discussed that. Some nice gunmetal silver has been incorporated with a darker shade of that for the bottom thrusters. Indicated again, there's that little bit of gum, that wad of chewing gum at the top there, and the fan section in the middle of the jetpack. As I said again, the jetpack doesn't seem removable. It feels like it has a little bit of wiggle, but I think the wiggle will just increase the more I do it until it eventually pops right off, and I don't want that at all. It's got some nice coloring to his aviator jacket, kind of a caramel color with some additional brushing of brown on top of that. Underneath all of this is, of course, where the jetpack would be harnessed in. I like that even if you are going to remove this, they fully sculpted all of it as if you wanted to, you could take this off, even though you can't. I mean, this could have just been barren. Could have been just a wasteland, because after all, you're having this over top, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be there. So I like the fact that Diamond Select would sculpt that extra little bit of care and love to their figure. You've got the riveted snaps around the outer sections of the flap there. Of course, his gloved hands. The thing about this figure, though, is while I love the look of the figure, I feel like the legs are slightly too short. I don't know if there needs to be a little bit longer length in the thigh or a little bit longer length in the lower calf area of the leg. But it does seem a little visually short when you look at the figure prospectively. Like if you look at it from a distance, he does seem like the legs seem a little on the short side. Again, I don't know if I would just have lengthened those legs slightly, even just a little bit more, I think would have not thrown off his proportions. I don't feel like he's a short character in the film, but the figure here does look like he's a little short on the leg. Some nice coloring also done, very reminiscent of the movie colors that he has. Kind of that grayish colored pant leg with the aviator pocketed kind of expansion sections on the sides of his leg. I always thought those are neat looking pants. And of course he also does have his boots going on down there. The feet are a little on the thicker side, but overall those decent looking boots. Again, my more concern sits with the fact that the figure seems a little shorter on the leg. Just if it was just a little bit longer, Not to say it takes anything away from the figure, but it's just, again, like when you look at it, it does seem like the legs are a little on the short side. Let's have a look at the guy's articulation. Rocketeer's head rotates all the way around. Now that would be either whether you use this head or this head right here. The ball joint works exactly the same. The head moves up, the head moves down. The head rotates all the way around. Didn't mean to rhyme there. Back and forth on the head. The arms hinge out, just short of being a 90-degree bend. You can bring them up to about there. I guess that would give you a little bit closer to 90 degrees. While we're also doing that, he has a swivel on the bicep. You can rotate those all the way around. He has a double hinge on the elbow. I like that. They incorporated a double hinge elbow. And then whatever hands you decide to go with, the hands rotate back and forth, and you can hinge them this way as well. Torso doesn't seem necessarily on a ball joint. I got to imagine there is a ball joint working behind the scenes, behind the camera, of course, but it doesn't seem like you can actually move the torso up and down too much, just rotate it more so left to right. The legs split out, giving you a full splits on the Rocketeer. Gosh, that's got to be painful. Forward and back on the legs. He has a swivel on, not quite half cut, almost even a third cut right above the knee. He actually has that hinge. A nice concealed joint on the knee. I haven't seen that happen too often with Diamond Select releases. The plastic is a little, of course, not quite the same coloring as the rest of the figure's legs, but for the most part, like I said, I just like the fact that they conceal the joint. Very clever the way that they've done that. He does have swivel at the lower half of the leg, and while he does have that, it doesn't seem to occupy any bit of additional swivel here on the boot. I mean, his boot is just part of the lower leg. Feet move up and down. There is the ankle pivot as well. In case you guys like ankle pivots, it's got that. And he does have peg holes on the undersides of his feet, even though technically this figure doesn't have a display stand or anything like that, other than, of course, this one right here. And, of course, he comes included with those thrusters. I'm not really sure how I'm going to display this guy when it's all said and done. At the end of the day, maybe I might even just find myself in my tickle trunk a little cradle display stand, cup it right underneath his torso, around the belly area of Rocketeer, and I might have him more in a flight pose like this, for example, than maybe how the display stand has him flying straight up. No matter how you display the Rocketeer, though, if you were a fan of this movie, it is a great-looking figure from Diamond Select to pick up and add to your collection. The early 90s certainly seemed like a magical time for family-friendly films to be hitting the big screen. 1991, we saw, of course, the release of Rocketeer, a personal favorite of mine, and one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. The year prior to that, a personal favorite of mine as well, a lesser-known film, maybe some of you have heard of it, called Dick Tracy. Yes, I know, probably. That's sarcasm, by the way. A lot of you have heard of Dick Tracy. Early times of getting Dick Tracy, when before the movie had come out, there was all those teaser posters. I probably had like 2 or 3 of them on my wall. Dick Tracy, unlike the Rocketeer, did get itself a figure line. Shorter, squatter, yes, and look a little more cartoonier than movie realistic, but at least he did get himself a toy line. Rocketeer got t-shirts, jammies, and of course posters that you can put on display. So what was kids like myself, after seeing the film and wanting a Rocketeer for myself, what did we do? Well, I can't speak for other people, but I certainly took my 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes and I went to work. I took a helmet, I believe, of the Laser Viper from Cobra. Follow along with me if you can. Painted that gold, took a bit of plastic from, I think it was an Enterprise model, and I glued that on the back of the helmet. So there was my helmet. I took the body of a pilot that came with the propeller green jet from G.I. Joe. I think it was called a Mud Skipper or something along those lines. It was the closest thing to an aviator style jacket I could find, so I used that as the body. And I think I took Budo from G.I. Joe, the samurai G.I. Joe, and I used his head because it was smallest and it could fit underneath the helmet of the Rocketeer. I also crafted together, I don't even know what I did for the jetpack, but bingo bango, I made myself my very own Rocketeer. I was very resourceful back in the day. Luckily, companies like Diamond Select have stepped up to plate, so we don't have to be destroying figures now to produce your very own Rocketeer. You can go to your local comic book stores or online stores and pick up this one for yourself. This one's neat because it has the two alternate head portraits, the regular Cliff portrait, or the preferred helmeted Rocketeer, which I favor much, much more. Also, two ways to display the figure if you don't want him quite leaving the ground just yet. He does have the flames coming out from the bottom of his jetpack. If you want him leaving the shelf, however, he does come with the alternate display base where he's already left and the fiery rockets trailing out from underneath his jetpack. Another cool way of displaying the figure. It's interesting, though, that this figure does have a hand which seems to almost lead me believe at one point that they had decided to probably display him or package him along with a pistol. For one reason or another, the pistol doesn't seem included anywhere in sight, so maybe it was a last-minute decision to scrap the pistol, but we sort of still get the hand as a reminder of what things could have been. Other than maybe the legs feeling a little short on this figure, I couldn't have asked for a better looking Rocketeer. Diamond Select again have been helming this line quite faithfully as we've got ourselves Rocketeer gallery statues, premiere statues, and of course the figure that we had a look at right here. If you're a big fan of the film like I was growing up, maybe you destroyed your G.I. Joes as well to create one for yourself. This is, like I said, a great addition to your collection. If you've managed to pick up this one for yourself, let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of the Rocketeer from Diamond Select, or based on this review and this review alone. I'd also like to send out a big mad props thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select who were nice enough to send this sample my way. Again, if you guys are interested and in the market to pick up one for yourself, you should be able to now find this at your local comic book stores, which the likelihood of stores being open right now, I don't consider most comic book stores to be quote-unquote essential services. That would be a hard sell, I think, for a customer store owner to convince the government that he's essential services. So right now, as it currently stands, and a time capsule perhaps for this film, that this review, people are going to be going back in this review later and saying, what are they talking about? Essential services. This is 2082. Everything is essential services. But if you guys are in the market of picking this one up for yourself, you should be able to find it through various online markets. So good luck. Today we were having a look at the Diamond Select, the Rocketeer Collector's Action Figure with accessories. A really neat looking figure. Really looking forward to putting this one on display. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell notification, and keep your peepers peeled, because not only are going to be a whole bunch of videos coming your way, but specifically if you're in the market for Diamond Select stuff, there's going to be a whole lot of Diamond Select reviews coming your way as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.